Hello, hello, and welcome to the weekly career question with me, Emmy Peterson from The Bridge Coaching. I work as a career and transition coach, and I help people just like you make the most out of their work and or transition to another line of work if that's what they want. And in these questions, we cover some of the key questions I get from clients or people on in my social media community, etc. And this one is probably one of my favorite top questions, which is I'm often asked to do more than my role requires at work. How do I set some healthy boundaries? This is a brilliant, brilliant question. A lot of people, both men and women, struggle with this question. And it's an interesting thing because it can be a bit of a slippery slope. It doesn't happen overnight, and all of a sudden you have way more responsibilities than you originally started. So this is a big topic, and I often work with clients one-on-one on this. And if you are struggling particularly with this task, I would really encourage you to head over to thebridgecoaching.com.au/contact us. And on the page, you can actually book a free call to have a chat with me. I'd love to have a chat with you because this is a big one and it really, really changes your life when you get a grasp on this one. But I'm going to share with you some key tips around healthy work boundaries, or where you can start if you're feeling really under pressure, really resentful, and you don't really know how to start unpacking this topic as it feels big and scary to say no to people. So the very first question that I want you to ask yourself is this actually part of your role? So if you're being asked, for example, to work late, was that ever inferred in your contract? Or is that something that just started happening and you started to say yes, and now all of a sudden that's what you have to do every week? So I want you to review what your actual job title is. If your job description or position description isn't very accurate, or you don't have one, or it hasn't been updated for a long time, I want you to have a conversation with your manager, whether you need to initiate it or you can have it as part of your regular review that a lot of companies have. So ask yourself if the things that are really starting to annoy you, are they actually part of your role or are they not? If they're not part of your role, there's great scope for you to put some boundaries in place. If they are actually part of your role and they're making you really unhappy, it might be time to move on to a different type of role, whether that's inside your existing company or somewhere else. So that's where I want you to start. Next, visualize this. Like, how would you like it to be? You know, don't think about the negative language here. This is a really tricky thing because your brain will automatically go, I don't like X, Y, and Z. I hate when people do blah, blah, blah. Avoid that language. In your mind's eye, think about how would you like your work to flow? What kind of notice would you like to have for tasks and projects to be done? How would you like it to be? And try to write it down, even if it's just really rough bullet points. I want you to actually write down how you would like this to be. How would you like to feel? Would you like to feel really empowered? Would you like to feel able to say no to certain things? So when we start to train our brain of how we would like it to be instead, things get so much easier. So that's your second point. Next up is the whole concept of eat the frog. I think his name is Brian Tracy. You might have heard of this, but the whole idea is with eat the frog is to start tackling the biggest or most difficult thing first. This might not be possible for you right now, but at least what I want you to ask yourself is, what's the biggest challenge area or the most challenging person that you're dealing with? Is it a colleague? Is it your boss? Is it a particular project or area of work? Is it that you always get stuck doing the social media stuff for the company, even if that's not really part of your role? So ask yourself when you visualized how you'd like it to be, ask yourself, what's the biggest problem right now? So that if you were to address that one, it would give ripple effects across the other stuff. Now, this can be scary. So remember, you don't have to do anything about it. I just want you to identify it at this point. And finally, this is my favorite bit, is learn to say no. Start learning to say no. For some people, myself included, this is a process. So what I want you to do is to start by, if you don't want to tackle the frog, or eat the frog, sorry, which is like tackling that bigger problem, I want you to start learning to say no. So a good way of doing this is to actually have a solution that kind of solves the problem that the person is asking you to solve, but you're saying no and you're offering a slightly different angle. So it could be things like, I'm afraid I don't have capacity to do that for you by tomorrow, but I can have it ready for you on Wednesday. So you're not saying no to doing the task, but you're effectively saying the timeline that you've put on this is not realistic. So I can do it for you, but it will have to be later in the week. Or it could be something like, if the task shouldn't really sit with you in the first place, and I've used similar language to this in past roles myself, you could say something like, I'm happy to review the final draft of the document, but perhaps John or whomever in your company could put the draft together given that he's got a better overview of this project. So what you're doing is that you're not saying, I don't want to do it. You're saying that someone else might actually be much better placed to do it, and I'm happy to be part of reviewing it. So what you're essentially doing here under step 4 is that you're learning to say no, you're starting to say no, and you can start it with really small things. You know, sorry, I can't work late tonight because I have an engagement to do, but I'm happy to start earlier tomorrow. Or you can start showing them that just by handballing things over to you, you're not going to take it, you're not going to do it every single time. But do remember, point 1, if this is actually part of your role and it's just not something that you like, then that's a different conversation, and that's something that I can really help you unpack if you want to have a one-on-one conversation with me. So I trust that that makes sense. Remember as well that saying no to things will also help you focus on the things that matter more. When you learn to say no to things both in your career life but also in your personal life, you start to allow yourself to focus on the things that matter. And most importantly of all, saying no to things that don't feel right in your gut, that feel wrong, saying no to things like that will help you build your relationship with yourself. It shows you, your unconscious self, that you've got your own back and that you're here to support yourself to move forward. So I hope that that was a little food for thought for you. As always, feel free to share this video with someone that you know. Feel free to send them the link if they need to, or the email that you received from me, and pass this on to someone else who really needs to hear this right now. It's by sharing these kind of messages and tools that we help each other create happier workplaces and feeling a lot better outside of work as well. And finally, if you have a question that you would like me to cover, feel free to send it through to hello@thebridgecoaching.com.au. It can either be a question that I raise here in these videos, or it could be something that we just tic-tac on via email or a personal conversation with you. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to see you in the next video.